Earlier, Chinese hackers used to participate in hacking competitions around the world and consistently secure first place. But after 2017, their presence suddenly disappeared. At first, no one understood why the Chinese hackers had stopped participating. Then, in 2019, an incident took place that exposed China's dangerous network. Welcome once again to Noble's Creation. Viewers, in March 2017, a group of hackers from China traveled to the Canadian city of Vancouver. Their mission was to discover hidden vulnerabilities in some of the world's most widely used software and devices. Their targets were Google's Chrome browser, Microsoft Windows, and Apple's iPhones. But they were not there to do anything illegal. They had gone to participate in a legal hacking competition called Pwn to Own. It is one of the world's biggest hacking competitions where hackers break into company software to find security flaws or loopholes, and in return, they receive cash prizes. The competition offers different prize amounts. They range from $50,000 to $1 million. The biggest prize is awarded for discovering a vulnerability that no one has ever found before. This is called a zero-day vulnerability. When a hacker discovers such a flaw, the details are reported directly to the company, such as Google, Microsoft, or Apple. This allows the company to quickly fix the problem by releasing a new software update. In return, the hackers receive hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash prizes. In other words, this is an ethical hacking competition. No one is harmed through the hacking. Instead, security becomes even stronger. For many years, Chinese hackers dominated these competitions. Whether it was Pwn to Own or any other hacking event, Chinese hackers almost always came out on top. But after 2017, everything suddenly changed. The Chinese hackers who had actively participated in hacking events around the world suddenly disappeared. In every hacking event held after 2017, everyone noticed the absence of Chinese hackers. This silence raised concerns, especially in the United States. During this same period, a random statement from one of China's largest cybersecurity firms caught everyone's attention. Qiho 360 is one of China's leading cybersecurity companies. A public statement by its CEO, Zhao Hongyi, drew widespread attention. In the statement, he strongly criticized these Chinese hackers. He said, "Why do they go abroad to show off their hacking skills?" He made this statement in an interview with the Chinese news agency Sina. Zhao said that performing well in such events is nothing more than an imaginary victory. In other words, it is just for show. His position was that the vulnerabilities they discover are worth not just a few $100,000, but billions of dollars. Shortly after the CEO of Qiho 360 made this statement, Chinese hackers stopped participating in international hacking competitions. But it later became clear that the Chinese hackers had not withdrawn voluntarily. They had been stopped by the Chinese government. If anyone had taken the Qiho 360 CEO's statement seriously, it was the Chinese government. Shortly afterward, the Chinese government officially imposed a ban. It announced that cybersecurity researchers and hackers would no longer be allowed to participate in overseas competitions. Immediately after this ban, a new hacking competition was launched inside China. It was called the Tianfu Cup. This competition became China's alternative to international hacking contests. The prize money exceeded $1 million. News of the Tianfu Cup immediately caught the attention of many countries. It signaled that China was now preparing itself for cyber warfare by making use of hacking. In November 2018, the first Tianfu Cup event was held in the Chinese city of Chengdu. The grand prize was won by Qiho 360 researcher Qianxin Shao. He had discovered an extremely powerful and dangerous exploit. It targeted Apple's iPhone. He launched the attack through the Safari browser. Then he found a loophole in the iPhone's core operating system. By exploiting this flaw, he was able to remotely take control of any iPhone simply by getting the user to open a web page. This meant that if someone visited that specific web page using their iPhone, the device could silently fall under the hacker's control without the user's knowledge. Qi named this exploit Chaos. The name turned out to be perfectly fitting. Over the following months, this exploit would become a major concern for cybersecurity experts around the world. The difference between China's Tianfu Cup and Canada's Pwn2Own was that Pwn2Own submitted the discovered vulnerabilities directly to the companies. Tianfu Cup also reported the vulnerabilities, but only through the Chinese government. The Chinese government required that every vulnerability discovered during the Tianfu Cup would not be sent directly to the affected company. Instead, it had to be submitted to the Chinese government first. The government would then decide when and how to pass it on to the company. And this was where the real disaster was about to begin. It was a vulnerability that could be worth millions of dollars if sold on the black market. Criminal groups or governments could use it to spy on thousands of people. 2 months later, in January 2019, Apple released a software update. In that update, Apple quietly fixed the vulnerability that Qi had discovered. But the real surprise came in August 2019. 7 months later, Google published a research paper. In the report, Google revealed that a large-scale hacking campaign targeting iPhones had been taking place. People's iPhones were being compromised on a massive scale. Google's research identified 5 different exploit chains. One of those 5 was the same exploit, called Chaos, that Qi had demonstrated during the Tianfu Cup. In other words, the same exploit that had won Qi the competition was now being used for mass surveillance of iPhones. Google's researchers reported that many of the attacks they observed in the real world closely matched the Chaos exploit. However, Google did not identify who was behind the attacks, nor did it reveal who the victims were. It was later discovered that the victims were Uyghur Muslims, and the attackers were none other than the Chinese government itself. Since 2014, China has been accused of committing serious human rights violations against Uyghur Muslims and other minority groups. These events took place in China's northwestern Xinjiang region. There, millions of people were reportedly detained in camps without being charged with any crime. Women were reportedly subjected to forced sterilization in an effort to reduce the population. Reports also emerged of torture and sexual abuse inside the camps. Every phone was monitored to determine whether it contained any religious content. If anything was found, the person faced severe punishment. Chinese officials claimed that these measures were necessary to prevent extremism. However, the United States and several other countries have described these actions as genocide. China's hacking campaign was not limited to Uyghur Muslims. Journalists, activists, and anyone who questioned the policies of the Chinese government were also targeted. When Google's researchers published their report about the iPhone hacking campaign, the media connected all the dots just a few days later. Apple also later published a statement confirming that the hacking campaign had indeed continued for 2 months. It was the very same period during which Qi had won the Tianfu Cup. By then, one thing had become clear to American experts. China had followed the strategy described earlier by the CEO of Qihoo 360. In other words, instead of allowing Chinese hackers to compete overseas, China kept their skills inside the country. Then, it used those vulnerabilities to carry out surveillance. To support this conclusion, U.S. intelligence agencies conducted a complete technical analysis of the Chaos exploit. It matched the Tianfu Cup exploit exactly. Google's deeper investigation later confirmed that both the Chaos exploit and the real-world attacks shared the same technical structure. But the story did not end there. In February 2024, data was leaked from GitHub, the code-sharing platform. The leaked data belonged to a Chinese company called iSoon. iSoon is an IT security company. The leaked files included company emails, chat logs, and details about the development of spyware. The leaked data revealed that the company developed cyber espionage tools. Those tools were later supplied to the Chinese government and the People's Liberation Army. The leaked chat logs also mentioned contracts between China's Ministry of Public Security and iSoon. It was revealed that iSoon charged the government between $10,000 and $75,000 for every hacked email inbox. Today, the Tianfu Cup has entered its 8th year. It is sponsored by some of China's largest technology companies. These include TopSec, Alibaba, and Qihoo 360. However, American officials are now deeply concerned. They believe that many of the people and companies involved in the competition have connections to the Chinese military. TopSec is a Beijing-based company that organizes the Tianfu Cup. According to U.S. officials, the company uses the Tianfu Cup to recruit nationalist Chinese hackers. All of this suggests that China is developing cyber weapons under the cover of the Tianfu Cup. And when national powers support hackers, their goal is not simply to win awards. Their objective is something much bigger. In 2024, the U.S. Treasury Department's data was hacked. According to the United States, Chinese state-sponsored hackers breached the U.S. Treasury Department's computer systems and stole sensitive documents. Also in 2024, Chinese hackers infiltrated the networks of at least 9 U.S. telecommunications companies. These included AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. In 2023, Volt Typhoon, a Chinese hacking group, targeted U.S. energy infrastructure and water treatment systems. Also in 2023, another malware campaign was discovered targeting a U.S. military base in Guam. These are just a few examples of hacking incidents that have been linked to Chinese hackers. Experts say that when Chinese hacking groups target critical infrastructure, they often maintain silent access to those systems for years. They wait for the right moment before causing damage. All of this suggests that China is building an army of hackers in preparation for cyber warfare, a type of war in which missiles are not the primary weapon. Instead, computer code alone can bring an entire nation to its knees. A war where disrupting networks can cause more damage than airstrikes. A war where the spyware hidden inside a smartphone can be more dangerous than a real-life intelligence agent. And where a single click can crash stock markets and spread fear throughout the public. We hope you will also like and share this video. Thank you very much for your kind and supportive comments. See you in the next amazing video.